In this video, I'll show you how to make your dungeons playable using the build system. The build system handles everything you need for single player and multiplayer games. The server builds the dungeon and then it synchronizes the seed to all the clients. So all the clients build the exact same dungeon, and then it waits for everyone to finish building their dungeons, and it also handles the late joiners and then eventually spawns the player when they're ready. So start by clicking the Dungeon Architect button to open a launchpad, and we will clone this Foundry theme, maybe in a folder. Over here, and let's also add in a feature content pack, and we want to have in, let's say, the third person feature added in. All right, so let me destroy this dungeon, and when I hit play, now I want to go here and set the game mode to the third person character, because we want this third person character, we want to walk around in this third person character. So I'm going to go to, let me close this, I'm going to go to Windows, Window World Settings, and in the game mode I'm going to take this and set it over here. Now when I hit play, I have my character spawned in, but the dungeon hasn't spawned, and we would want our character to spawn inside a dynamically generated dungeon, possibly a new dungeon every time they play, right? And the way we do that, we could do it using the dungeon build system component, which takes care of all of the heavy lifting. So the dungeon build system component has three components. We have the build system component that's attached to the dungeon actor. That's already attached, you don't have to do here. Just make sure that it's this one is checked, which is checked by default. Participate in build system. Then we have two more components that we attach to the game mode and the player controller. So having these components that could be attached to your existing game mode allows us to inject this functionality into your existing code without having you changing the hierarchy, and it could be used with any existing game mode that you might have in your project. So let's open the player controller. So now we want to, since we want to make the third person character walk around, we already have the game mode, the character controller, and the player controller that comes with the sample, right? So we're going to go here and inject our functionality. So what you have to do is click on this add and then search for dungeon build system. As you can see, there are three different blends of these. This one gets attached to the dungeon actor, which already is attached. You don't have to do anything. This one will be attached to the game mode, and since we're in the player controller, we want to attach this one, and that's it for the player controller. Just attach it and you're done. Now open up the game mode, and this is a bit more involved, but first thing we start with dungeon build system and attach the game mode version of this component here, and you have all of these three things attached. And if you go to the dungeon actor, you would see that there's another dungeon component version attached here. So coming back to the game mode, we want to do a few things. First up, go here, override, make sure you're in the game mode, override, find player start. So what the find player start function does is it allows us to choose a player start, and in our case we are going to let this component do all of the heavy lifting for us. So just delegate this find player start functionality to this component. So grab this and then search for a function find player start, pass in all the inputs to this, grab the output from here, put it back in here, and make sure this exec pane also goes through it. So this component is going to now handle the player start, and it will instruct the engine to use the player start that was spawned in the spawn room. So our player is placed in the spawn room correctly. Compile. All right, now the last function you want to override is get default pawn class for controller. Again, the same thing. Get rid of this, delete, and let this component handle that for you. Same thing, get the default pawn class controller, pass in all the inputs to this function, get the output and put it and return it back. What this does is while the dungeon is being built, this would keep your game or your character in spectator mode so that you don't have your character falling down while the dungeon is being built over multiple frames. So this is great. You can be in spectator mode, and then once the dungeon is built, it's going to switch over to the pawn that you have specified. Or again, you don't have to worry about any of this. All of this is handled for you. Just do these two things. So override the find player start, just transfer this, let this component handle it, and then override this, do the exact same thing with that, and you should be good to go. Now you also want to decide when you want to build the dungeon. Usually that would be in the game mode itself, in the player start. So I moved over to the event graph here, and then search for just add a event begin play node, and just grab this component again and say initiate build. Now let's compile, save, and now let's see what happens when I hit play. And just like that, you are now inside the dungeon, right? So if I hit play again, I'll be in this exact same place again, because we are taking the seed. The seed doesn't change, it's seed 0. So I'm gonna hit play again, and you see we're in the same place. You can randomize this. You can randomize this every time you play by clicking on this randomize seed on build, and I'm gonna hit play. We play somewhere else. It's a different dungeon every time you hit play. Now this is single player, and I'm running this in I'm running this as standalone. I can also run it as a listen server. Then I'm gonna bump this up to maybe 3, and let's run it in new windows. All right, those other 2 windows are off screen. Let me bring them in. Now you see the third screen was still loading, and it brought those guys in after the loading was done. So it just works with multiplayer as well. So I have a bunch of stuff running in the background, OBS, recording, streaming. So I'm running out of memory, but it just works. Right, so single player, multiplayer, it just works out of the box. All the heavy lifting done for you. You just have to do this minimal setup and you're good to go.